We're 1 week away from what you worked so hard for.
It's NAIA football with Dannelly and Donley.
And don't you let a moment go without thinking about what's there for you to reach out and grasp.
This is the Victory Sports Network, and I'm your host, Jason Dannelly. Welcome into NAIA football with Dannelly and Donley as we kick off the 2024 NAIA football season on the Victory Sports Network. Very happy to have each and every one of you here with us here on the program as we get set to talk about the world of NAIA football. And as the 2024 season is upon us, there's a lot of questions. Can Keiser repeat as a national champion? Will Northwestern make their way back? Could it potentially be a new team vying for their first national championship ever? All those questions and more will be answered on tonight's program as Pat Donley will join me momentarily to go through our NAIA football season preview. Again, thank you everybody for joining us here on the Victory Sports Network. This has been quite a ride that we've had over the last year. A year ago at this time, I was not sitting in this seat. We weren't doing these programs, but I guess through a little bit of luck and a little bit of circumstance, I'm back in the world of NAIA football, and I'm happier than ever to be able to bring you this program each and every week on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Central. A couple things with this program. That is our plan going forward. Each Sunday night at this time, you can put it on your calendar to join Pat and myself to talk about the world of NAIA football. Pat might be able to be here. I might be able to be here. But we're going to do this program each and every week to break down the world of NAIA football because it's important. We love this level of football, and we are just giddy to get into next week's games, but we're not going to talk about those tonight. We're going to talk about what we think could be happening for the entire season and who we could be seeing in North Carolina playing in that national championship game in this upcoming December. A whole bunch of things to go through tonight. Plus, we've got an interview with the defending national champions head football coach Myles Russ. He's going to join us a little bit later on in the program in an interview that we conducted earlier on this week on the program. Pat and I were able to get Coach Russ in between practices to talk about his program, to talk about this upcoming season, who's coming back for Keiser, and maybe some things to break down for the Seahawks here in 2024. So we are looking forward to talking, or at least presenting the interview to you with Coach Russ. Now, full disclosure, sometimes interviews go absolutely perfect, HD quality. You know, you're talking, you can do this thing in 4K. Everything is perfect. And sometimes they don't. That was maybe a little bit of the interview that we had with Coach Russ. We had some camera issues, we had some lighting issues, but the interview itself and the audio and everything is absolutely fantastic. Stick around for that one. We're looking forward to presenting our interview with Coach Russ momentarily. But before we get to that, I want to introduce my co-host. He's won national championships. He's been the offensive coordinator for national championship winning football teams. He has got a long history in the world of NAIA football from the coaching ranks. And now, well, he's like me. He's just a schmuck that just, works outside of the world of NAIA football, but just still loves to talk about it. Pat Donley joins me on the program. Pat, welcome into 2024, I guess, officially.
Jason, we're talking about it off camera, how exciting this time of year is, and just couldn't be, more excited and grateful and happy to be a part of this for year 2 of this program. When you called me, we've talked about this for a while now, and you're getting back into this world, and we've kind of hinted around this for some time, and finally going to make it happen last year was such a cool thing and just enjoyable for me, and getting back into talking about something that I love in NAIA football and hanging out with my buddy Jason Dannelly. So this is a great thing, and excited to be on for year 2.
Yeah, if you guys only knew the number of times Pat and I talked to one another in the last 10 years on the phone, and every one of those conversations, like, we talked for like 35 minutes about what was happening in NAIA football, and then we'd be like, we should do a podcast or something.
Podcast. Very good idea.
We should do podcasts. And here it is. Out of the advent of technology. If StreamYard had invented or had been around 10 years ago, or at least I knew about it 10 years ago, we probably would have started sooner. But as I kind of learned about the ease of this program that we put together the broadcast in, it certainly has made things a lot easier. Hey, before we get into our NAIA preseason preview, we've got a lot of people that are joining the program. We thank each and every one of you. If you're on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, feel free to send us a comment. We'll try to get to your questions as we go here and answer those questions as we go. But what we're going to do for the format today is we're going to just start alphabetically with the conferences. We're going to go through each and every one of those conferences and talk about what's going on there. Now, one thing I do want to mention personally to me, there's a program just like ours that's out there in the world of D2 football. D2football.com. They've got a program. It's actually going here at the top of the hour at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Good dudes over there. Brandon Meisner has been a guy that's been by my side, through 25 years of covering small college football. If I ever had a question about how to cover things, he was always there for me. Brandon had a medical episode earlier this summer, suffered a stroke, and he has been recovering from that. Our sincere thoughts go out to the world of D2 football and Brandon Meisner for a speedy recovery. We want nothing but the best for the world of D2 football. And when this program is over, and only when this program is over, mind you, jump off from us, go over, check out the D2football.com program. Those guys do a fantastic job. I'd be lying if I didn't say I stole most of the ideas for this program from those guys. So with that said, let's get into the world of NAIA football, Pat, and talk a little bit about what this season looks like. And we're going to start with the Appalachian Athletic Conference. Now, the graphics that you guys are going to see on the screen for you here, those come from my preseason ratings and how I broke down the conference. So do not blame Pat for this. Do not send Pat hate mail because I picked UPike to win the Appalachian over Reinhardt or Bluefield or Union or whoever it may be. All right, these are my predictions. Pat will jump in with his. But I really feel like UPike, they finished super strong at the end of last year. They were 7-3 to end the season. If one more week in the season, we might have seen them in the playoffs over Reinhardt. Reinhardt as strong as ever, but not as many players returning there. And then Bluefield, they've been a team that's been lingering around the top of this conference, and they've got a really great quarterback and offense coming back. So this could be a three-team race in the Appalachian Athletic Conference. My pick in the Appalachian Athletic Conference is the University of Pikeville to win this one. And obviously, Reinhardt is a close second. I think Bluefield could surprise some people. The rest of the conference there, you've got some quality teams. Point University's got quite a few ball players back. I don't know if they're going to get over the hump. Union's got quite a few back. That's why I put them for Kentucky Christian and St. Andrews. Just kind of struggling in the conference. Haven't found their way as football programs quite yet in the Appalachian Athletic Conference.
Jason, first and foremost, I want to tell folks out there, you've done extensive research on this. Jason has gone above and beyond the journalistic norm when it comes to finding out research of who's returning. In the world of NIL and transfer portal, players leave, come and go. We talk about it later on with Coach Russ from Keiser, that players are there's a lot more mobility than there's ever been. So Jason has done a ton of research of where if there's players returning that are very, very impactful for these programs. So I'm going to trust you, Jason, on a lot of research that you've done with these rosters that are here. At the same time, I'm a traditionalist. I know the people that have been around and have been established for a long time. I would never bet against Reinhardt in that league. That's just me. At the same time, it's great to see, Bluefield on the rise and Pikeville. I think those are both great programs and beautiful parts of the world, and they've done some really good things and are on that cusp of really breaking through and maybe making, into the playoffs. I know Bluefield's got a really good experienced staff on their coaching staff there. So love this list. I think it's going to be really exciting to watch this conference throughout the year.
Yeah, we talked about top players there. Nathan Hurtstitch at Bluefield. He's been a player of the week a couple times. He's been a guy that can sling it around the yard. He's one to watch this year. These players come from the NAIA 99 that I released last week on the Victory Sports Network. You can check that out, of course, at victorysportsnetwork.com. Lee Kirkland was the player of the year last year for the Appalachian Athletic Conference. He's back at UPike. That's what just makes me feel like UPike maybe has that extra little bit. And then, of course, Byron Gee, defensive lineman from Union Commonwealth, another returning ball player there in the Appalachian Athletic Conference. So I don't begrudge you at all picking Reinhardt. In fact, if you asked me to rewrite the article today, I might go that way. Again, if you've got any comments or anything like that, feel free to add them to the chat. Casey checking in earlier, and Casey, I love the comment here. I appreciate it. He may have also played in the Victory Sports Network All-Star game a couple years ago as he was a kicker at Ottawa. So good dude there. Now currently at William Woods, who we'll talk about later on in this program, to start their first season of football. So we move on from the Appalachian Athletic Conference. The thing about this conference, and we'll look at the list one last time here, this is a conference that I feel like they need to get somebody, to really distinguish himself as the best in the league and then make a run in the postseason. I think these are good programs. Do I think any of them have a chance to win a national championship or make a lot of noise today as I look at the NAIA postseason? I don't think so, but hey, we got a whole bunch of weeks in front of me to prove myself wrong. So there is that. Moving on to the Frontier Conference. This could be one that we could talk about for quite a while, as the Frontier Conference, when I made this list, Pat, I was sitting there looking at it like, all right, who's the best team? And as I started writing it, I'm like, gosh, Montana Western's got a lot of kids back. Gosh, Carroll's doing some really nice things. They return a quarterback as well. Rocky Mountain's got the Buell kid at quarterback. Man, he can sling it. Their defense was the best in the league last year. And as I just started going through it, I was like, good God, there are 6 teams. And I'm not lying when I say this. I'm not just saying this to save face. Those top 6 teams you've seen there, if any one of those win the conference this year, I will not be surprised. I may be a little surprised if College of Idaho or Montana Western aren't either the 1 or 1A of this conference. But if one of those other ones pop up there, Pat, I look at it and I would not be surprised. I think Eastern Oregon has got some kids returning that are going to make them better than last year. Montana State Northern has some things happening there that they're going to gradually get better. But Eastern, Arizona Christian, Montana Northern, they are in a league that is just super deep in the world of NAIA football. And so I put College of Idaho at the top of this, a lot of it because they return some good ball players on defense, and most importantly on offense, they return Andy Peters at quarterback. And I think he's probably the best or top 2 quarterbacks returning in NAIA football this year.
Definitely agree. The most important position, find the best player in the league and the team that made the deepest run. And if that player's coming back, yep, I'm with you. Peters, I thought, arguably was the best player in the NAIA last year, especially in the playoff run. I think even the loss to Keiser, he was tremendous. And I think that team just gained so much valuable experience from that run. And I expect great things from them. Jason, I'm going to say this, and an old MSFA guy that I am, this is the deepest conference in the NAIA this year. Especially with the shuffling of the league a little bit in the Mid-States Football Association. I do think there's always been that argument. We see it online all the time. What about the Frontier? Yeah. I think this year it's not even a debate, in my opinion, that this is the deepest. And I will tell you, and I have my predictions later on, that we have our front runners, and I've got a bunch of dark horses that come from this conference. And I think it's whoever's going to be number 2 and 3 potentially getting into postseason because they're so quality. And I think this is going to be each and every week. And it was this way last year as well.
Yeah.
As we started this program, we started seeing these games. It's like, 1 through 6. 6 was beaten 2. 2. I mean, any given week, anything can happen in this league because it's so competitive. So it's going to be really exciting to watch again. And I think it's even deeper. Like you said, you have to make a 1 through 9. But my goodness, even the bottom half of this league is tremendous.
Yeah. I mean, I look at Eastern Oregon as that team that could still surprise some people this year. They could jump up there and because they've got some really good ball players back, but Carroll College returns a quarterback, Rocky returns a quarterback, Montana Tech returns a quarterback, Western returns a quarterback, Idaho returns a quarterback. That, as you stated, that is the most important position in the world of NAIA football year over year. And whether that quarterback is this giant producer that throws for 300 yards or he's just a returning starter that can run your system, that speaks volumes to your success and what you're going to be able to do in the world of NAIA football this year. So I picked College of Idaho. I'm not surprised Western. I think compared to the preseason polls in the Frontier Conference, I probably have Southern Oregon a little higher, and I would be completely lying and being biased if I didn't say that our interview we had with Burke Brown last spring didn't swing me a little bit. Absolutely. And make me say, these guys are going the right way. I like where Coach Brown's got them going. I had an opportunity to see the new surface at Montana Tech when I was out in Montana on vacation, actually. Beautiful facility. I mean, what they've done to that stadium over the last 25 years to make it absolutely one of the best in the world of NAIA football, it has been tremendous. Montana Tech has got a lot of dudes back. I mean, this is a deep, deep conference. You talk about the dudes coming back, like we talk about the guys that are on this list right here. These are the Frontier Conference players that were on my NAIA 99 preseason list. And look at that. College of Idaho, quarterback back, offensive lineman back, wide receiver back, linebacker back. With also one of the all-time great names in the world of NAIA football, Willie Nelson at linebacker. Love that. Montana Tech, ton of dudes right there. Montana Western, you don't see a lot of Carroll College on this list. You see a tight end, but I tell you, they return a lot of quality starters as well. There are some really good football players that you're going to see on this list. And like I said, Graham Buell, I believe that's the name, escaping me, at Rocky Mountain. Their quarterback was a player of the week last year, threw for over 300 yards. They upset Montana Tech. I mean, he had a whale of a game. He's back this year, so a lot of dudes to talk about. If you've got any comments or questions, be sure to drop them into the comment. We'll answer your questions or respond to your comments if you've got any here on the show. We'd love to hear from our the people that love NAIA football as much as we do. Any last thoughts on the Frontier Conference there, Pat, before we move on?
To me, back to the conference's best player, I want to give 2 thumbs up and kudos to Andy Peters of staying put. I guarantee he was pursued because I tell you what, you watch this guy on film, physical specimen, as good of a runner as he is passer. And I can guarantee some FCSs and some folks like that in that part of the world especially would have some connection to him. I'm sure he was pursued in this day and age of college football and mobility. I give him a lot of credit. I'm anxious and I'm happy that he is coming back with this program. And I really expect College of Idaho to do great things. But at the same time, this league is such a gauntlet they have to go through. I will say this, whoever comes out of this league, I think it's going to be 2, maybe even 3 teams potentially getting in the postseason. They will be seasoned and ready to go. And again, now you're talking about health of these key players. These guys staying healthy as well to make a run. So anyway, that's kind of my 2 cents in the league. But we could talk about these guys, for a really long time.
As you know,
Hootie.
Yeah, as you know, Pat, I'm a bit of a gambler. I occasionally place a bet
even today?
From time to time. I may or may not. Yes, even earlier today, I may or may not be researching and doing some Excel database spreadsheets on how to set spreads in the NAI. But I say all that. To tell you, degenerate. I say all that to tell you, if you told me to place a bet that a Frontier Conference team would be in the semifinals of the NAI Championship Series this year, I would put all of my money on it. I don't see a scenario where somebody from that conference isn't at least in the semifinals this next year. I'm also a degenerate gambler. These predictions are all made for fun. Please do not follow my advice. And if you have a gambling problem, please seek help. With that said, we move on to the Great Plains Athletic Conference, who again is a conference that has made a lot of noise in the world of NAI football over the last 20 years. With Morningside having their dominance, Northwestern having their recent dominance, and now Dordt making the playoffs this last year. This is a league where you've got 3 or 4 teams at the top that could see themselves potentially in the postseason. I have probably upset some people, I would say, with my preseason prediction of putting the Morningside Mustangs at 1, Dordt at 2, and the team that was in the NAI semifinals last year at number 3 in the conference. But again, we go back to our conversation, Pat. When you're replacing a quarterback like Jalen Gramstead, who has graduate transferred to the University of Nebraska to play big-time Division I football, and you don't have a guy there with much experience, Dort's defense is going to cause them problems, and Morningside has got dudes back. So I picked the Mustangs to win this conference. You kind of see the list there. I think Midland University has got a lot of returning ball players, and one thing I found in my research, Midland has not made the postseason, but this is a team that's consistently been 6-4, 6-5, 7-3. They're right there in that tier of the GPAC, and this could be the year that they potentially make that jump and find themselves in the postseason. Concordia, great wide receiver, great quarterback back. The rest of this list here, it kind of spells itself out where you've got some pretty good teams. Once you get to the bottom 3 or 4 of this conference, it's tough to call. Could Mount Marty be 8 or could they be 11? Could Waldorf, in their first year in the Great Plains Athletic Conference, be able to move themselves up a little bit? That's a possibility as well. But it's just so tough to say. Pat, what are your thoughts on the rankings I've got here in the conference?
I'm on board. I do think Northwestern, with what they've established the last handful of years, I would really feel confident to say that they're still going to be at that top. And, them and Dort. I mean, Dort's, I give them a lot of credit, especially late in the year last year, what they put together. They were playing stout defense and playing in tight football games against these great programs in the league. So I'm with you. I understand your thought process. At the same time, I go off of history and I go off of tradition, and I'm sure the Northwestern coaching staff is going to develop the next quarterback. I'm sure they kind of knew this was coming. With Gramstead moving on. I think those 2 and 3 could be interchangeable. I'm with you on Midland. They've always been on that cusp. That's like you said, above 500, just below, in striking distance of making a run within, winning the league or making a push for the league or in the playoffs. But you never know with those guys. But I like those top 4 in this league, especially. And how can you ever bet against Morningside and Steve Ryan? I mean, that's yeah. I mean, you're people that bet against Brady all the time. The guy that's won 3 national championships and that has something such as a program established like this program does, you'd be silly to bet against him.
Yeah, they're going to be right there with it. I would love for Northwestern to prove me wrong and have a quarterback come in. Their defense is stout. I'm telling you, their defense has got a lot of guys back. One guy that does not appear on this list that is back this year is Parker Fryer. Now, Parker Fryer was an All-American in the NAIA previously. He transferred out, was at the University of South Dakota last year. He transferred back in, and he's at Northwestern again this year. Now, I did have some integrity in my list, and I did not put transfers on my NAIA 99 list. I did not put incoming freshmen on my NAIA 99 list because that just opens up Pandora's box. Because there's a lot of transfers that have come into the NAIA that I've looked at, and I went, that guy is probably going to be an All-American. And Parker Fryer at Northwestern, who is not on this list, he's going to bolster that defense. He's going to be another name that we're going to be talking about throughout this year. So I think Northwestern's defense will be extremely stout, but so will Dort's defense. Dort has had a tremendous defense, one of the best in the NAIA last year. That offense gets another year of experience. I see themselves being better than what they were last year. You can see some of the other returning ball players here. The Jablonski kid at Concordia was a returning All-American. He could help that offense out a bit, and that's one of the things that's going to keep Concordia towards the top of the conference this year. And then, of course, you get kind of further down the list there. The Dinkert kid from Midland at running back. They're a team that likes to run the football, and if they've got a strong running game, whether it's him or somebody else on the team, they can see themselves toward the top of the conference there. But a lot of really good ball players returning in the Great Plains Athletic Conference.
Yeah, just 2 quick points. You see the defense with Dort and Northwestern. I'm totally on board. Those guys. I thought Northwestern's interior, that front 7 was so good last year. You see a lot of those same names, which is great to see them coming back. Another guy, Connor McQuillan, back at Northwestern. I tell you what, a run game, especially in that part of the world that travels well, that plays well in the weather. That guy is the most versatile players in the NAIA. Folks that love NAIA football, watch this guy. He does it all. Receives the football out of the backfield as well as runs it between the tackles. He's physical. He's fast. Is the big playback. He can do everything. So great to see him back for the Red Raiders.
Great Plains Athletic Conference, we're probably looking at least 2 teams in the postseason, possibly 3, especially with the expansion to 20 teams. That certainly benefited last year. I don't see that changing this year. GPAC, always one of the better conferences in the world of NAIA football. Probably not the best this year, but the Frontier's got a lot to say about that. We move into the Heart of America Athletic Conference, or the Heart Conference. I don't know. I always hear it abbreviated now. I know it as the HAC. Heart of America. I don't think they like it called the HAC anymore. I don't understand why. Nothing wrong with the HAC.
There's the WAC.
GPAC. The WAC.
It's
good, but the Heart Conference. The Heart Conference we'll talk about here. North Division. History. if you put anybody other than Grandview at number one, like you're just at that point you're trying to be a troll. Like you're just trying to get clicks, you're trying to get views. Grandview's the best team in this conference until proved otherwise, or in this division until proved otherwise. And Graceland and Peru State have got some really nice teams coming back for them this year. Graceland, I think this is year 3 under Pat Ross now, and Pat can recruit some dudes. He's got some ball players in there, and probably one that I missed on my NAIA 99 list that's really going to get that offense going. So Graceland could be another team to look at coming out of this conference. Peru State's a team that surprised me. Ton of returning starters on both sides of the ball. They were very good last year. They weren't great. They have an opportunity to improve their position a little bit this year. And William Penn, second year under a new head coach and a new head coaching staff that was previously, at Avila. When Avila found themselves in the postseason, they could be a team to watch here. So a lot to be said about the Hart North Division. And then you've got a new entrant in St. Ambrose coming from your old Mid-States Football Association into the Hart Conference for athletics this year. And this was kind of one of those moves for St. Ambrose as a complete athletic program to move their athletic program into the Hart Conference. That's why we start seeing them here and not in the Mid-States Football Association this year. Thoughts, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, it's the easiest number one selection that there is, I think, on this entire program we're doing. Grandview with that tremendous defense, reloading once again. Pretty simple and easy to put them at the top. I am anxious, like you, to see Coach Ross at Graceland for another year and what he is developing there. We know his track record and his ability as a tremendous head coach. So I'm on the same page with you, Jay, and I think those two.
Yeah, I really feel like it's Grandview. Graceland's got a chance. Peru's got a chance maybe for the postseason there as well. That's just where I see this conference going. We go to the South Division. This one's a little more interesting, just for the simple fact that Mid-American Nazarene missed the playoffs last year, but has a ton of returning starters. Benedictine missed the playoffs last year, has a really nice returning starter core there as well. And Baker made the postseason, and I've got them picked 3, followed by Missouri Valley, who has a new head coach there, who was previously in the world of NAIA football, followed by Baptist, Central Methodist, and the team that's starting their program this year from scratch. Well, not really from scratch. They've been building it here for a while, but it's their first year competing. You can't put William Woods anywhere but 7 in the conference because you just don't know where they're going to go. But the top of this conference, Pat, there's a lot of things that could happen here.
No doubt. I thought Baker really did some good things last year. You see them towards the end of the year, put some points up and, have a really strong offense. Benedictine, always in the mix, always. And I'm sure your research and what you're finding of returning stars, makes you put Mid-American Nazarene there. But I think those 3 are very, very strong contenders to make a run for the postseason, to get themselves in and make some noise once they get there. So I think those 3, I think you're spot on. And I think they're all interchangeable, to be honest with you, I would guess. But I'm on board.
Again, exactly like you said, top 3 interchangeable. Benedictine wins the league. Best team in the Hart this year. Wouldn't be surprised. Same with Baker. Same MNU. I maybe stick my neck out there a little bit. I pick MNU, also because I like to hear everybody else complain that I picked MNU and not the other 2
You
teams.
love to be a contrarian. You love it.
A little bit, I do, and maybe like this is a conference of great rivalry, and Benedictine and Baker is a rivalry. Baker and Mid-American Nazarene is a rivalry, and Benedictine and MNU has become a rivalry. In fact, people from Baker, they'll call Mid-American Nazarene Mink because the Mid-American Nazarene College, so Mank or Mink, that's kind of one of those. It's the way they get derogatory, I guess. There could be worse things to be called than that, but great conference with a lot of great players. Here's a look at the guys that are back. That were on the NAIA 99 this year. The Julesgar kid, Greenwood, and Karn, all back from Baker. Gathright at wide receiver for Benedictine, including Heath Baker, and then Jacoby Hinton, who was an All-American on the offensive line. The one I kind of get to, Graceland, you got Cade Ross back at quarterback and E.J. Barrera at linebacker. Now they've got a wide receiver and Gerald Monroe, who made some noise last year. I didn't have him on my NAIA 99 list. Would I be lying to you if I said that was probably an oversight? it's probably an oversight on my part. He's a heck of a wide receiver, might be an All-American by the end of the year. And then just a stack of Grandview players from the North Division there, along with Jordan Kemp from Peru State as a returner, kind of all-around athlete for the Bobcats there. So needless to say, the Heart, a very deep conference, a lot of guys that can make some noise out of there. Grandview, maybe that team, you hate to say it. I mean, they've won a national championship, but the last couple of years, they just haven't got over that hump to get themselves back to the championship game and kind of assert their dominance as one of the best in the NAIA. So the Heart, a lot of things happening there. We move on to the KCAC, the Kansas Collegiate Athletic Conference, the Keiser Division. When I first saw this, I wondered why they name a conference after Kent Kessinger from Ottawa. And then I remembered Dr. Ted Kessinger. I'm kidding, folks. I'm kidding. I knew it was after Dr. Ted Kessinger, one of the all-time greatest NAIA coaches of all time, having this league, this division named after him. I picked Friends to win this league, mostly because I look at this entire, this half of the league, and it's honestly pretty even. Like, you've got Friends, Southwestern, and Evangel. Evangel made the postseason last year. They lost quarterback, they lost running back, they lost wide receiver. So I think they're going to have to pick themselves up a little bit this year. Southwestern, kind of same boat. They've got some key players back, a little thin in some areas. I like Friends. They run the ball. They got the quarterback back. They might not throw the ball this year. Who knows? I mean, if I'm a wide receiver on that team, I better know how to pass block or how to option block on the exterior, because you're not going to get 15 targets a game in Friends' offense. The one team I want to talk about a little bit in this half, Pat, is Bethany. Now, Bethany was a one-win team last year, but this is the second year that Mike Grossner has been head coach at Bethany. Ed Grossner, of course, was at Baker, was in the national championship against a team that you coached back in the 2010s there. And Grossner's a heck of a coach, heck of a recruiter. I think you kind of got to look past that 1-10 season last year and realize they're building something. I see them creeping up a little bit in the KCAC Kessinger division this year. What are your thoughts?
Jason, you stole my thunder. I was going to bring that up. I totally agreed. They're still the Fighting Swedes, aren't they? The best name in football.
Fighting
Love
Swedes,
that name,
baby.
The Fighting Swedes is fantastic.
Yes, love
yeah,
it.
Coach Grossner is top of the line. I mean, from a standpoint of what he's accomplished in building, Baker back, for the last 20 years. I think he was there about that long. It was 15 at least.
It's about 15 years, yeah.
Yeah. And then took that team, the undefeated team, to the national championship in 2016. So you have a coach like that in this league, he's going to put this program on the rise. There's no doubt in year two. And I'm with you. I think that's if there is a dark horse in the league, it's you're anxious to see what the old Fighting Swedes do this year. But I'm with you. Friends that they've established themselves. Good running team. What was the game last year, Jason? Was it them and Evangel with only a handful of passes? I forget.
It was Friends and Bethel is who it was.
Bethel.
Coach Harrison was previously at Bethel, kind of a protege there, and Coach Stokes is their head coach now. They both like to run the football, went the entire game without throwing a pass.
Yeah. My kind of football game to watch.
My kind of football.
I'm a passing game guy. I like the ball in the air.
Just take that little mesh. Let's run with it around the corner, baby. That's what I like to see. Coach Harrison, I think he's got a real quality team back, and a lot of really good football players there. And then Coach Griffin at Southwestern has a nice squad. This will be an interesting division to watch this year, Pat.
Sure. Like always.
Let's move into the Bissell division, named after Gene Bissell of Kansas Wesleyan. Interesting fact, if you've seen the movie Varsity Blues, when Mike Winklepleck was a defensive back for the Morningside Mustangs. Yeah. What was his name? What was the guy's name? The quarterback for Friday Night Lights. I can't remember his name.
I don't watch movies, man. I'm so
anyway. There's a scene in there where the coaches are recruiting him, and it's Kansas Wesleyan that is recruiting him, and they're like, "Do you like to play ball, son?" Well, I mean, if you go in history, that would have been Gene Bissell in the movie. He doesn't get credit on it. These are the things. These are the things I remember. Pat, why?
Well, we've talked this many times on the show. The things that you recall and can pull from seems to be midair, and the things that you don't remember, like your wife's birthday, but certain names in the back of your mind. You do know your wife's birthday, don't you?
I do. I do. It's taken 5 years,
Yeah.
but I've got it.
Nice.
Kansas Wesleyan.
I was going to say we both have kids in the same birthday now. That's helping help each other out with that one.
Absolutely. We'll be calling one another. Did you do anything today? Kansas Wesleyan's my pick in this conference. I feel like what they've got coming back, and honestly, they were. You throw one upset out. Kansas Wesleyan is in the postseason last year. Right. Ottawa sneaked in behind, sneaked in, whatever. They snuck in right behind them. Avila, I think, has got a quality. I think really 3 through 6 in this conference. I don't know. I go with Avila. I think they've got a new coaching staff there. They're kind of reestablishing some things. I think they've got an opportunity to make a little run. It might be a year too soon for what I'm thinking. Tabor is Mike Gardner and everything he's built over the last 25 years with the Blue Jays. You cannot count out Mike Gardner and Tabor. I mean, they threw a monkey wrench into the KCAC at the end of last year with their defeat of Ottawa late in the season. St. Mary has got a really nice offense coming back, and Sterling has got a new coaching staff there, so you don't know what they're going to present. So this division, this KCAC, there's a lot of things that you got to consider. I'm going with K-Dub and the Yotes to win this, but I would not be surprised to see Ottawa and the Braves and everything they've got coming back getting another championship out of the KCAC here.
Yep, I'm on board with 1 and 2 for sure. Like you mentioned, don't know much about Avila, obviously new staff. And then, of course, Tabor with Coach Gardner, known him a long time, does a great job, first-class guy. And they've always seemed to be – they're always in the mix there, aren't they? So, I'm totally on board here. And this is going to be an interesting division, I think, for the things that you mentioned. Because Ottawa was a playoff team last year. And, can they get back into it? Kansas Wesleyan was so close, late defeat, kept them out. Going to be interesting.
Taking a look at the best players coming back in the KCAC this year, this is the list. Evangel's got 3 guys back. 2 of them are on defense. 1's on the offensive line. Cavante Baker for Friends University, probably your best running quarterback in the NAIA. And that's not saying much. That's what he does. The Hempel kid at linebacker for Ottawa is a heck of a ball player. And then the Heilig kid for Tabor as a kicker. That's kind of a breakdown of the best players in the KCAC. There'll be others that will emerge this year, but this is what was on my NAIA 99 list earlier this month on the Victory Sports Network. Once again, if you've got any comments or questions, drop them for us. We'll try to get to them if they appear in my little window over here. If they don't appear in the window over here, I probably won't get to them. I'm seeing some Facebook and some YouTube comments on here. Twitter is always a bit of a crapshoot if those are going to come through. We're also live on Instagram tonight as well. So real nice audience that we've got here. Thanks everybody for coming on with this. Mid-South Conference. I can't really think of anybody other than Georgetown that's going to win this. And that's not to say the rest of the league isn't good, because they are. I think Georgetown took that step last year to put them in the elites of the world of NAIA football. So I put them at the top of this conference. Lindsey Wilson and Bethel, I think, are right there. Playoff contender, postseason contender schools there. And then we get to Cumberland's, who's a team that is slowly building themselves back. I don't know if Coach Housekeeper will be able to take that team from being middle of the road in the Mid-South Conference to the top of the Mid-South Conference this year. But they've got a chance. Campbellsville returns some real quality players on offense. And Cumberland and Faulkner, there's 2 very good programs. In fact, Faulkner, the team that was a real power in the NAIA just a couple years ago, I'm picking them 7th in this league. That's tough to say. This is a real strong conference, top to bottom, Pat.
Yeah, one thing I was going to bring up and talking about kind of bottom going to the top here. I'm going to go in reverse. You never know, especially in this part of the world, which arguably is the best area for high school football in the entire country, this region. You're talking about the Deep South and places like that. It's kind of interesting to see some of these teams got some transfers that maybe that you probably are aware of, but you're obviously not disclosing. But I think a lot of things can happen because of that factor. Players can make a huge impact if they would come into these programs. Now working your way to the top, I'm with you. Bethel was such a good team last year, and classic games with them and Lindsey Wilson last year, kind of vying for that last spot in the playoffs. Lindsey Wilson obviously has been established with Coach Oliver leaving in good hands, still competitive program. And then talking about Georgetown, I think Georgetown, this is the year now we're talking about a legitimate national championship run or an opportunity at that. So they're one of my teams. I'll give a sneak peek to my predictions that I have them in the contention category for making a run for the national championship. So that's why I think of Georgetown College.
Yeah, you look at some of the best players coming back in this league, not a lot from other teams in the Mid-South, like Lindsey Wilson. They graduated a lot of people. It was tough to find somebody that I thought was truly one of the top 99 in the NAIA. But you look at Georgetown on here, offensive line, running back, defensive back, linebacker, and that's not even including the fact that, the Slonaker kid at quarterback is probably one that we will be talking about throughout the year in his performance for Georgetown College. He's a really good NAIA football quarterback. He'll have an opportunity to make himself, not only just an all-conference player, but an All-American by the end of the year. So the Mid-South Conference, like we were talking there, Pat, I like Georgetown at the top. I like Lindsey Wilson and Bethel following them up, but it could go anywhere in this conference. But I do think the Tigers took the step in the last year to put themselves in the elite level of NAIA football. I don't know if you can chime in or not, Pat, if you know anything about these leagues or not, but we're moving on to the Mid-States Football Association. Are you familiar at all?
I'm familiar
with? Oh,
yeah,
that's news.
And the one that we have not talked about, Jason, the big news, and it's unfortunate news. This makes me sick, to be honest with you. And it hasn't come up this summer in our interviews that we've done. It didn't come up. But it's certainly an elephant in the room. The last season of competitive athletics at Concordia University, Ann Arbor. It's to me, it's just sad, depressing.
Yeah.
What a great institution. They've had a great football program in other sports as well. I mean, and this is a school that had a lot of sports. I mean, to ice hockey, which I'm a hockey guy. So it's really, really sad. At the same time, I love you picking them because talk about a chip on their shoulder. Kind of like, hey, we're going to band together and make this a successful season one way or another. At the same time, they did have some folks leave, obviously with an opportunity to obviously this news came down. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was in early June that it came down that this was the last athletic season.
Yeah, it was late spring, early June, something like that. Yeah.
So, there was some mobility from the program, but I think I can tell you the coaching staff, Coach Schumacher is a brilliant defensive mind and good leader of that program, tremendous leader of that program. And I will tell you, I guarantee he's got those guys, frothed at the mouth, ready to make the last stand and go out with a bang with that program. And they've done such a great job the last 15 years. They started out kind of slow, Jay, back when that program started. I mean, they haven't been around all that long. Is it 2007, maybe 6, something like that? 2008? I don't know. We played them.
Yeah.
They were beyond brutal for like 4 years. 5 years. And then all of a sudden, is it Lonnie Priest? Yeah, the AD took over as the head football coach, got them rolling, got players, talk about schematically strong, and turned it around. And ever since that point, and then Coach Schumacher taking over a handful of years ago, great program. They did a great job. And I tell you what, going against those guys, I didn't look forward to it because you better bring your A game with game plan and detail because those guys are really, really good. So sick about it. At the same time, I love you picking them. I'm rooting for them. It sounds weird because they're an old rival of ours, but I'm rooting for them because it's such an unfortunate situation. My 2 cents on that.
Well, and I pick them because, even though they, there maybe a couple players trickled away given the news and everything like that, they still, from the reports that I've gotten and getting things from their athletic department, they've got a lot of guys back. And I look at Indiana Wesleyan, who I picked second, who's still going to be very strong. They're still going to be one of the top teams in NAIA football this year. I look at that quarterback position, that running back position, a couple dudes on defense they lost, and I just go, it might be, I don't want to say a rebuilding year because people think 3-7 when you say rebuilding year. I think they might slip just a tiny bit, and that gives Concordia the opportunity to win this conference. And then you put Siena Heights, or I put Siena Heights in there third because they've been one of the most consistent teams in the Mid-States Football Association the last couple of years, 5-5, 6-5, 7-3, 7-4. This is a team that consistently, year after year after year, they find ways to win. So don't count them out of winning this half of the league in the Mid-East Division. Lawrence Tech, new head football coach there, a lot of local recruiting ties. I think they're going to surprise some people this year. Defiance comes into the league after being D3 last year, the Yellow Jackets. They return a handful of starters. I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot about their style of play. I just kind of looked at some comparative things between them, the league they played in, Division III. This is where I think they'll be in the conference. And then you've got Taylor and Madonna trying to get off the schneid, trying to get that first W. They've got a new coaching staff there as well. So a lot of things can be said about this half of the Mideast Division, not just Concordia and Indiana Wesleyan. I mean, it's a nice league, top to bottom.
Top three for sure. And like you, Siena Heights has always just been so close. They're consistent of being, that 7-3 team, like you say. That's what they are. And can they win that extra game to get themselves in the postseason? And that's what it really boils down to. It's like one game a year. So I'm rooting for those guys. Good group of guys up there. And then Indiana Wesleyan, I think you'll know a lot more the first Saturday of the season when the St. Francis Cougars go down to Indiana Wesleyan on a Saturday evening. To see what that team is like. That's going to be a great challenge. Two great programs going at it. So I have the feeling that they will be, like talking about rebuild. Rebuild for them is going to be, still in contention for the conference championship. I will tell you that. It's not going to be a 3-win season. I will put any amount of money on that. So, I think highly of that program, and I think they're going to have still a very strong year, even though replacing a lot of key positions.
For those of you just joining us, we're breaking down all the conferences in NAIA football. Coming up a little bit later on, we've got Keiser University's Myles Russ, their head football coach, joining us here on the program. We'll get to that interview in a little bit. First, we get to the other half, the Mid-States Football Association, the Midwest League. I'm picking USF of Indiana to win this half the league. I like what the Cougars have got returning. And I'm not just saying that because the guy positioned directly below me in this chat used to coach there, or we interviewed his dad or anything like that. I think what they've got returning, they've got a chance to win the Midwest Division. I follow them with St. Xavier and Marion. I picked Marion third, mostly because, the Bundalo kid graduates, not there at quarterback anymore. They've got to figure out quarterback play there a little bit. They do have Keegan LaBelle and a few other ball players back that are ball players. How about I say ball players a couple more times, Pat? Sorry. The Knights have got some really good athletes there. They're going to make them good this year. And then St. Francis, Illinois, here's a team last year that was rolling right along, tripped up a little bit, 7-3. This is a strong league. With only 6 teams in this league, the top 4 are really good programs in the NAIA. And Olivet Nazarene was right there last year too. I mean, really, Judson's the only one in this half of the league that hasn't been able to find winning ways over the last 5 years. So a nice division. I'm picking USF of Indiana to win this one.
We talked about the Frontier being the deepest, and there's obviously was there 9 teams I think in that division. With this being a 16 conference, I think this is the second deepest. With the top 4, I think are all top 25 level teams, and probably the top 3 you're talking top 15, maybe 12. I think any of the top 3 can win the league. I will say that first and foremost. With number 4, St. Francis of Illinois, I will bet, not a betting man like you are, Jason, that they will beat at least one of those top 3. I'll put money on it. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Maybe even 2 of them. I'm telling you, they will be a team that will be – I don't see them winning this league this year with the addition of Marion and St. Francis coming over. But I will tell you they will be a problem. They're gonna have an upset with one of those 3, I believe. So with that being said, I do think I don't disagree with St. Francis being at the top. I will tell you, having some inside information, I think this is the best roster that the Cougars have had since 2018, and that was a Final Four team. They lost to Morningside so it's a great roster. I think it's incredibly deep. They got to stay healthy. They had some injury issues last year. Some key players that are coming back. You got to figure out quarterback. I think they've got a good returner, but they've got some other guys that are having a good camp. So I agree with you. Never count out Coach Femis and St. X, and never count out Coach Karras and Marion. Marion's recruiting base is tremendous there in Indianapolis. There are so many great Division II NAIA level players in that region. They're a place that transfers want to come back to from that area. So I would never count them out. And again, St. X think the world of those guys. So those 3 programs, I think they're all worthy of a top 10, top 12, top 15, finish. And I think all 3 could be in the postseason, Jason. Yeah. Like I said, St. Francis, Illinois is going to ruin somebody's Saturday at some point.
And this is what St. Francis, Illinois, the Saints, this is what they got to do. If they beat one of those top 3 schools, they got to not lose to Olivet Nazarene.
Exactly right.
They got to not lose to whoever that other team is in the conference that's below them, and that's been the Achilles heel the last couple of years for the Saints. played really good, 6 solid games, getting a real dogfight with one of the top teams in the conference. And then you look at their schedule and like, well, how'd they lose to those guys? Why'd they lose that game? They got to get past that. So we take a look now at some of the best players in the Mid-States Football Association we got coming back. We talked about him, Seeger DeGainer. We didn't mention him about Concordia earlier, but he's one of the better athletes, I think, in the NAI, especially at that wide receiver position. He can do a lot of things, not only as a wide receiver, but as a return man. He's kind of one of those guys the Cardinals want to get it in his hands as many times as possible. I mentioned the LaBelle kid from Marion back at running back, real quality ball player. Ross back for St. Xavier at quarterback, as well as, you look at the Tamilty kids from St. Francis. There's 2 of them on this list, and there's 3 of them that play for USF in Illinois.
Are those 2 the twins? I think they're twins, aren't they?
I think those 2 are the twins. Yeah.
They're good football players. Really like watch those guys play. Tough guys, good Irish lads.
Yeah, so there's some really good ball players on this list. One thing you do notice, the team that I picked to win the conference, USF Indiana, not a player in the top 99. Now, there's, again, some really good guys that were all conference, all mid-states football that didn't make the league. I guess maybe that's fuel for the fire or something like that, but that just shows you the type of athletes that are in the Mid-States Football Association to be able to pick a team to win the league, and they don't have a player on this list. Moving onward, we go to the North Star Athletic Association. This is the last year that we will preview the North Star Athletic Association because, frankly, it's the last year of the league. They're all going away. 4 of those 5 teams will be in the Frontier Conference next year, and one of them will be Division II. That would be the number 2 team in the league that I picked, the University of Jamestown. I've got Dickinson State winning this league. Ton of returning ball players. I think they proved a lot last year in the postseason, going on the road, beating Montana Tech in Butte before they went on to play Grandview in the second round of the playoffs, and then they lost in Des Moines, Iowa. I think the University of Jamestown's got some ball players coming back, plus some recruits that are certainly going to make them a little bit better, plus a change of scenery, getting out of the GPAC and getting your brains beat in by Northwestern and Morningside and some of the teams in that league might bode well for them. Valley City State, I think, is right there with them. I could interchange 2 and 3 on this list pretty easily, followed by Dakota State and Mayville State. Mayville's got a ton of starters back. They could be a surprise out of this league. I mean, they really do have a lot of ball players back. But again, Dakota State has kind of got that too. They had a lot of young ball players that are coming back. It's tough to figure out, all right, who's going to develop those guys and all of a sudden take that jump this year in the league. But I think it's Dickinson's league to lose in the last year of the North Star.
Sounds good.
We go on to their top returning ball players, 4 of the 5 coming from Dickinson State there. Scotty Woodruff is one of the best offensive linemen in NAIA football, and same with the Zuroff kid at running back. Brantley, he's not a big wide receiver, out of the tight end position, but a great blocker, does really well in this offense. And the Davison kid was first team all-conference wide receiver for Mayville State last year. The Sooner Athletic Conference, as we kind of buzz through these, you've got Ottawa University of Arizona in at number 1. They're a team that ended up rated very high last year, but did not make the postseason because Louisiana Christian won the tiebreaker in this conference. Texas Wesleyan really led the league for most of the year. I've got them picked at 2, Langston 3, LCU coming in at 4. I think Oklahoma Panhandle State has a group of starters that are returning that could put them in the top half of this conference. Some of you might be looking at the screen for the first time saying, Nelson? Who's Nelson? Southwest Assemblies of God University is now Nelson University in Waxahachie, Texas. So if you're used to seeing SAGU or SAGU or Southwest Assemblies, that's Nelson now. Wayland Baptist right behind them, Arkansas Baptist, followed by Texas College. And North American is a team I'm confused by. Like, they're in the league, they play in the league, but they're not considered in the official poll that the Sooner put out. So I don't know, but they're playing everybody in the league, so I have them on this list with an asterisk. But I think Ottawa, Arizona, they've got a lot to prove after being left out of the postseason last year. I think they're the best team in this conference coming back. Texas Wesleyan has a nice squad returning. Langston, do want to talk a little bit about that program briefly. Tragic day yesterday as one of their assistant coaches passed away, their offensive coordinator, Coach Mason. So our thoughts go out to Langston, their staff, everybody there as you get into camp and lose a coach that's been there for a while. Never a good deal, and wish nothing but the best for Langston, their players, and their coaching staff in the weeks and months ahead. Sad deal there. But, I still think Langston is one of the better teams in this league. Would not be surprised to see them make a run this year and run up into the upper half of the conference. Any thoughts on this one, Pat?
No, out of curiosity, was there some movement out of Louisiana Christian with that strong roster they had with the coaching change?
There was a little bit. You also look at the Palermo kid who was at quarterback. He's not back this year. They've got a few other kids on defense that are there. I just think with the transition of staff, graduation, new guys coming in, and then the rest of the league. I mean, you think about it, like another week, we're not talking about Louisiana Christian in the postseason. We might be talking about somebody else. So I that's why I kind of put them at 4 this year. Wouldn't be surprised to see them basically running about the same area that they were last year in the league, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it's the top half could really go anywhere here.
Yeah, you kind of see this, and this is still a new conference. At least to me, it is. It's still a new conference.
Yeah,
and these new programs, still fairly new programs, establishing themselves. But what a better place to be than the state of Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas and Louisiana. I mean, and then Arizona, I guess, is kind of the outlier. But you have these programs that are established themselves, and again, having this recruiting base the way that it is, maybe even transfers. I think we'll talk about this conference in the future like we do the Frontier or the Mid-States. I think we can talk about that here sooner rather than later. So this is going to be really interesting to watch. I love watch. We talk about this all the time. We had these coaches on how exciting this area of the country having NAIA football is. So to me, this is going to be fun to watch. But I'm looking forward to see if Ottawa, Arizona can break through.
Travis Martin at defensive back for Langston, Pop McGee for Louisiana Christian, also back at DB, and then Luke Guerin at quarterback for Ottawa, Arizona. Your top players back in the Sooner. I do really think Ottawa's got a chance to make a run as long as they don't trip up early in the year. The schedule, and I say this like, if Ottawa, Arizona, when the coaches poll comes out, is in that top 15-ish range like they finished up last year, they have a chance to end the season in the top 10, possibly in the top 5 if they run the league. Just with other teams in the NAIA losing, dropping down, they kind of creep up. Don't be surprised if you see Ottawa, Arizona, at 5 or 6 late in the season, just through the war of attrition in the world of NAIA football. And last but not least, the defending national champions, the conference that they are in, the Sun Conference. I've got Keiser winning this again, but I think St. Thomas is going to be improved. They've got a lot of weapons back. Southeastern's going to be right there. Ave Maria's got a great running game. Florida Memorial, a lot of athletes there. They've returned quite a few people at the running back position as well and on offense. This is a league that is starting to establish itself, and I think anytime you win a national championship, you do establish yourself as a conference. Keiser's put them on the board, but St. Thomas and Southeastern are 2 squads that you got to keep your eye on as well.
No doubt. And again, when you have a conference like you mentioned that wins a national championship, you give legitimacy to it, no question. And the other thing is, what are those other programs going to do? The standard has been set, and you will see the competition level, I think, rise dramatically these next few years. And talk about, again, recruiting base. Holy crap, holy moly, it's Florida. get some guys, you got a chance. And all these programs, and there's some great facilities in this list. But it's going to be really, really intriguing, I think, the next handful of years of where this league can go. Much like we talked about the Sooner, I think this can be one of the deepest leagues and best leagues in our affiliation here sooner rather than later. So, I'm totally on board and really, really excited to see Keiser, what they're going to do. And we got a great interview coming up here momentarily.
Yeah. Keiser's Myles Russ will be on with us after we finish breaking things down here. Now, you look at the returners here. St. Thomas got a ton of kids on here. Got a quarterback back, got a wide receiver back, got Rontavious Farmer, who's probably the best running back in the NAIA, just in terms of how he played last year, what he can bring. Jaden Meisinger, obviously, is right there with Keiser University. Also, you got Andrew Burnett from Keiser University is back. He was kind of part of that 2-headed monster last year. He doesn't even make the list, but still one of the absolute best in NAIA football at the running back position. So it will be very interesting to see what comes out of this conference. I'm excited not only just to see how Keiser comes out of the gate against some Division II teams, but how they come out of the gate against St. Thomas, how St. Thomas plays going on the road with some of their early games that they've got. They're traveling as well. They're playing outside of the league and playing some of the better teams in NAIA football. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. So some great ball clubs in the Sun Conference. We'll talk to Myles Russ in a little bit. So we get into kind of our final thing here. The national championship predictions. Who's the team to beat? Who's got a best shot at making a run? Who's kind of your dark horse for the championship predictions here? And I will start off with the obvious. The team to beat is Keiser. When you win a national championship and you go on the road and you're going to play some Division II teams this year to kind of bring your team together and then come back into the NAIA to play, I seem to think like Keiser's going to be able to mold themselves with that early season schedule and be ready to go in the world of NAIA football. I think they're right there. I think another team to beat, if it's not Keiser, is probably College of Idaho out of the Frontier Conference. College of Idaho has a lot of weapons back. They played very well on the road. They're one possession away from being in the championship game and beating Keiser last year. So you can't forget that. And, I'll stop there on my teams to beat because I think the rest of the ones kind of fall into that best shot at making a run. What are your thoughts, Pat?
Yeah, I've got 5. And starting with Keiser, you always pick the defending national champion. And again, I love this interview with Coach here. He's got me sold. I'd love to line up and play for him for sure. So Keiser, College of Idaho, who I think with a great quarterback coming back in a tough league though. In a tough league, and I think health is going to be a big thing, and obviously buckling it up every single week in that league is going to be a challenge for them. But I love them. Georgetown, I got Grandview and Morningside are my other two. I think great. I think their schedules are favorable, to be honest with you. With kind of not knowing what Northwestern's going to be this year with Morningside, I think it's their time to reestablish themselves at the top of that league. And then Grandview with a great defense and getting over that hump we talked about earlier. You had them predicted about mid-season last year of being the national championship, Jason. And I didn't disagree with you at all with that defensive performance. So they need to prove themselves because that roster and that defensive culture especially has been certainly formidable. Those are my 5.
Best shot at making a run this year. I think Georgetown College has to be in that conversation. I think Montana Western can be in that conversation because, again, they're in leagues, or at least Montana Western is in a league. If they knock off College of Idaho, all of a sudden we start talking about them differently. And that's a team that's very capable of it. In fact, Montana Western will tell you, we're not knocking them off. We should beat them. We're better than them. So I think Montana Western out of that league is another one to talk about. Obviously, Georgetown has a good shot at making a run. Somebody out of the GPAC will make a run. And I don't know if it's Morningside. I don't know if it's Dort. I don't know if it's Northwestern. They've got to play the season out there. If I have to pick today, I'm going to say it's Morningside just because I think they have a little bit more of a core coming back to potentially make a run there. But from top to bottom, that's kind of where I lean. If I go into the Mid-States Football Association, that's when I kind of start getting into my dark horses because that league's tough. There's really good football. I can't say beyond a shadow of a doubt right now, here's the standout team in the Mid-States Football Association. I think Grandview has a really good shot at making a run. They've got to prove it this year. They've had some really good teams the last couple of years. They've got to get over the hump and get out of the semifinals, get out of the quarterfinals unscathed, make it to that national championship game. And then I'm a believer in them. I think they'll run the table regular season. If they lose a game in the regular season, I'll be absolutely shocked. But they've got to get it done in the postseason. So before we go into the dark horses, I get the comments here. Pat, do you see the comments when I flash them up on the screen?
Just briefly. I'm not time. I don't read very well or quickly.
Yeah. So here's a comment. Do you recognize that name at all?
No, I do not. Former player?
Wide receiver, Ohio Dominican.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Played in the All-Star game back in the 2000s.
Yeah.
That
was a while ago. Sorry there.
Sorry for sidetracking everybody, but thanks for checking out the show, Jared. Really appreciate it. Dark horses. This is where it gets fun. Like you can pick anybody as a dark horse, and you're gonna make somebody's night, and you're gonna just completely torque somebody off by not putting them in this list if they think they should be. So I'll start with you, Pat. Do you have a particular dark horse that you look at that we haven't talked about yet?
I kind of did things a little different than you, and I gave my 5 favorites that I really like. And then I've almost lumped category 2, making a run at dark horse, kind of intermingled.
Yeah.
In that I think the Mid-States Football Association West next 2, whoever wins it, the next 2 are going to be in the mix. Mm-hmm. And one of those may be a dark horse. How can you consider St. Francis of Indiana or Maryland a dark horse or St. X? You can't, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Or they're blue bloods to me. So, they're kind of in that, best team to make a run type category. So take that for what you will. If I have one, it's a dark horse. And again, it seems silly because they've been such a good program the last handful of years. Is Indiana Wesleyan. I really think they're a good program. And I think they have the ability, facilities, coaching staff, all the things that you want to make a good run. And if you consider them a dark horse because of the turnover of players, okay, fine. The AAC rep, potentially, if that's at UPike, is it Reinhardt? Mm-hmm. I would say those 2. The frontier, number 2, 3, 4, maybe, whoever those guys are, who that proves to be. And I'm going to give you one more. It seems silly because they've won a national championship, or were in the national championship last year's Northwestern. So those are mine. Again, take it for what it's worth. It's a lot there. Again, you try to polarize yourself too much. I lump a lot of guys in there, a lot of teams in there. But I think the teams that I've rattled off, I think can really make a deep run. And I think you've got favorites, yes, but I think when you have the depth of and quality of conferences that we do have in the NAIA this year, I think you can't really consider them dark horses because they're really good established programs. But who's going to be second, third in that league that may still get in that top 20? And can they make a run? I think the answer is absolutely yes. I mean, would you be surprised if, like you said, Montana Western, gets in and makes a deep run, or if it's Marion University gets in and makes a deep run to the Final Four, or even past that? No, not at all. Yeah. So that's kind of where I am with that. So it's going to be a fun year, Jay. I really think it's deep. I think there is, 20, 25 teams that I think can make a great shot at this thing.
So I won't go so bold on this program to predict my national championship yet. I've given you a rundown of who I think will be in it, who I think are some of the better teams. I'll actually write an article, put it on the Victory Sports Network for somebody to read in the coming days on a true prediction. But I'm like you with the dark horses. Whoever that team is out of the Mid-States Football Association that moves themselves to the top, I think they've got a chance. Whoever that team is in the Frontier Conference that can battle College of Idaho, Montana Western, could be Carroll College this year, could be Montana Tech, could be Rocky Mountain. One of those teams could pop out. Now, the one that we have not talked about, that I'm going to put my chips out on the table on this one. There's 2. The first one I'm more confident in. Ottawa, Arizona. I think they can run the table, and given how wins and losses go in the NAIA, they could be hosting first round, which is big. They could then potentially be hosting semifinals, depending on how everything shakes out of that first round. So, or quarterfinals, pardon me. And I think that speaks a lot. So I think Ottawa of Arizona, I'm considering them a dark horse this year because I think they can run the table in their conference, and just through the attrition in the top 25, they're going to find themselves rated very high, which will help them in the postseason pairings. The other team I'm going to throw in, and you kind of mentioned them, the University of Pikeville. Now, some people might look at this and go, Dannelly, you're on drugs. It's Pikeville. Pikeville hasn't ever been at the top of really anything in the NAIA. They've made the postseason a couple times. But they've got Georgetown on their schedule. They've got Reinhardt on their schedule. If Pikeville can win those games, now you got to start talking seriously about them. And I think that's what makes them a dark horse, because that game against Georgetown means a lot. They could prove a lot of things, and they've got a great quarterback leading them. They've got a strong defense coming back. Pikeville could be that team out of the AAC, maybe to represent in the postseason. Reinhardt kind of the same, but I'm going to stick with Pikeville as my other dark horse here. So those are my thoughts. That is, we got through them all. In my mind, Pat, we were going to do that in 30 minutes. It's going to be an hour program.
Not with 2 long-winded guys. No chance. We like
No.
to talk. We're salesmen, buddy. We're salesmen.
We just talk like none of this.
And now we're selling our predictions.
Yeah.
This is a great reference point to come back in November and look at.
Yeah, please don't go and jot down notes from everything that we've said in this program and hold it to us even within 2 weeks. NAIA football kicks off next weekend. College of Idaho's got Lincoln. Weber International is going to be playing Fort Lauderdale, the University of Fort Lauderdale. It's kind of the official start of the NAIA football season. We're not going to break down those games this week. We'll talk about what happened next week on the show. Excuse me. And then we'll get into the first full week of predictions next week. So, Pat, do you have anything else to add before we get into our interview with Coach Myles Russ?
No, but this interview is great, by the way. Again, we have some technical issues. But what a great young coach, an excited young coach. And like I said, going to South Florida and playing for that program and that coach would be an easy decision for a lot of people. So it's awesome. So enjoy. But looking forward to things getting kicked off. And I think we did a great job. You've done a great job, Jason, your research and putting everything together. The website looks great. Everything you're doing is top notch. I think our prediction show or our review of the conference breakdown was great. Looking forward to seeing some games here coming up very, very soon.
Yeah, we can actually start talking about things going on now. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Pat, as always, appreciate you coming on with us. We're gonna dip out for a second here. Myles Russ's interview is coming up in seconds, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, I got to take us off the screen, put him up on the screen. So, barring any technical glitches, he's going to be back with you. So, join us momentarily as we'll be talking with Coach Russ here on the Victory Sports. And welcome back to the Victory Sports Network preseason show. I'm your host, Jason Dannelly. Thank you again for sticking around for our upcoming interview that we've got with the returning national champion head coach, Keiser University. His name is Myles Russ. And of course, with us as always is Mr. Pat Donley. Coach Russ, I know obviously you weren't the head coach last year, but you had a lot to do with the building of this program, being around the program since its inception. So it's got to be a proud moment for you, an exciting moment for you, not only one, to be coming off a national championship, but to now be at the reins of the program.
Yes, it's been great. I tell everybody the exact same thing. It's such a blessing, I'm telling you, to be back home and be able to start the program 7 years ago with my mentor, Coach Sosha, and now being able to run a show. And on one thing I tell everybody, Coach Sosha really helped me and prepared me for the spot that I have right now, putting me in a lot of different positions, just recruiting wise, deal with financial aid, especially at this level. You deal with a lot of stuff. So I was that person for him that allowed him to kind of be that offensive coordinator that he was for us, and he was great at that. So doing a lot of that stuff that behind the scenes, and then also putting me in positions to make some decisions as well regarding the team. So it's definitely different, being at this spot, but it's been a blessing, and I've definitely been prepared for it.
As we get ready for this upcoming season, it's got to be a little bit of a change, obviously, for you going as the head coach now. What has been the major change for you, if you think back to what you were doing a year ago, to what you're doing now as a head coach, some of the different responsibilities and things that, maybe Coach Sosha was handling and you didn't realize, oh, wow, there's a lot to handle here.
Yeah. Also, you got to lead the entire team. I was just leading the recruiting process, the running backs, but leading the entire team of how you want things done, evaluating their entire team, not just looking at it as an offensive perspective, but now different ways of how we can be better as a team. So, that's some of the differences that I would say about it. I kind of laugh with my family. You always have to be on. So it used to be a time I can get things together for them and do this and that for them. And then when the meeting starts, I can sit back and kind of relax a little bit because now he's up in front of the team. But now it's one of those, hey, I got to be up there, speaking to them and letting them know what we expect as a program and what I want to see for our team. So those are the little, differences from it, but it's definitely been fun.
Coach, tell us about, obviously, your mentor, Coach Socha, who's left the program, left it to you. And you've had that experience of learning through him. You mentioned some things already that, kind of the behind the scenes things. But let's talk about like your philosophies and maybe your approach and your leadership with this program, especially now with this target being so big on your back, coming off a national championship, and you're thrusted into this leadership role. Talk about, just real quick here, just about how you've learned from Coach. At the same time, you have to have your personality, your stamp on things.
Yeah, so me and Coach Socha, we work so well together, but our foundation and who we are the same. Being disciplined, being tough. The way we go about things are differently. One thing about our team, I want to make sure we get to that our mantra, you can say, is grit. I want our team to be gritty, be tough, and within that grit, I want off the field, I want our guys to be genuine, respectful, innovative, and trustworthy. And that's what we're going to be all about. That's me. That's this team that I want us to represent. It still has the foundation of the previous teams, but now that grit is mine. It's ours, of this program as of now. And I think Coach Socha, he did a great job. And all this stuff that is obviously what I want our team to look like. The foundation was built with Coach Socha. And I think that's something I'm not scared to say. And that's some things I let the team know because they know I've been here from the beginning. So I'm part of that. And that's who I am. So I'm not trying to be like Coach Socha. I do things, certain things different ways. But the foundation of who we are and what we're about, that's not changing. And I was part of that as well. So it's definitely been fun. I would say Coach Socha, he's one of those, he comes in guns blazing. And I'm more evaluate the situation, and then I blaze right after. So that's a little bit of the difference that we have just as personality wise, but our foundation and who we are as people, that we're right there locked in. And it's definitely, it was fun. It was fun of working with him in terms of how we handled things. That was part of the team. And I was just so happy that he was able to accept my personality. Him, he wants you to be yourself, but at the end of the day, you have to have results. And that's what I've learned the most. And that's one thing I teach all of our coaches as well. I want them to be themselves. I want them to, do what they think is best, how they kind of can get through the players. But as long as they're getting results, I'm good with it.
Coach, when you moved to the head coaching position, obviously that opened up a need for running back coach. And this kind of gives me an opportunity to kind of transition into this year's team a little bit. You had Bryce Veasley as quarterback last year. He goes down in the national championship game. Justin Wake, local kid, steps in. As I'm sitting there watching the game, I'm like, oh, well, here's the guy for next year. Well, then as I look at your staff for this year, Justin Wake is now at that running back position, running back coaching position. So now it's kind of opened up my mind a little bit to go, okay, what are we doing at the quarterback position? But also, what's it like for you to have a guy like Wake who came in, helped you to a national championship, now on your staff?
No, it's been awesome, man. To have he's just my biggest thing of getting these guys and getting the right guys on our staff is getting good people. And that's one thing I wouldn't want to say about Justin. He's a good person, genuine good person. So that right there was definitely an A+ for us to have him part of our staff. He knows what to expect. He knows how it is as a player, and now obviously know what to do offensively as well. So it's definitely been an easier transition for him, and it's been fun to kind of help him be a mentor for him, I would say.
Coach, look at your background, obviously being a recruiting coordinator, prior to taking this job. I'm a former recruiting coordinator. I love the relationship building with high school coaches, and you are in one of the finest areas for high school football in the entire country. Yeah. Talk about your recruiting background and, again, getting established in South Florida at those tremendous programs and how it's helped established this tremendous roster that's won a national championship.
Yeah. So I'm sorry about every time I stay over here. I've been at this office so long, the lights cut off on me.
I was just going to say, have you been sitting too long? Do we need to
watching film? Came back from meetings and watching film, so I'm gonna have to get somebody to get the lights for me, cut off on me.
Throw something towards the motion detector. That's usually I have this. Same thing in my office.
It gets me up. It gets me back up. So I do love that about it. So I'm gonna get somebody to get the lights back on for me. But with recruiting, man, it's definitely been great of being from down here. That helped me, know the lay of the land. Also being at my alma mater, Robert Morris University, being the lead recruiter for Florida. So knowing all these coaches and these players, how things work, that's been a big help. And I think it helped me transition to this job that I have now, working with young men, getting to know young men, knowing what, teaching these young men what to expect, making that transition into the college level, and then helping them. We run a pretty detailed and disciplined program. And, it's our job to get the right young man part of this program and to protect our locker room. And that's one thing I tell all the guys that we recruit. It's up to me and these other coaches to protect the locker room. We work hard for these young men that are in our locker room now. So it's for us to really know who we're getting, making sure that they fit us, not just athletically, but personality-wise. And then if we do get certain guys that might not fit, maybe we can still bring them in and have some guys around them to help mold them into, how we do things here. So it's definitely been a big help being a recruiting coordinator and transitioning into the spot that I'm at now.
So as you look at the squad and how it's shaping up, through really the first week and a half of practice here, you've had obviously some big graduations, but you've got some guys coming back that are pretty big ball players, including probably what I would consider one of the best running backs in the NAIA in small college football, and Jaden Meidzinger, plus a couple other guys at that running back position. That's obviously an area that you coach pretty closely. Talk about that running game, because a guy like me that's from the Midwest, that grew up in Nebraska watching triple option football and all that, I absolutely love the way that you guys run the ball and are a run first team, or have been a run first team in the past. Talk a little bit about the running game and how that's been shaping up here in the offseason.
Yes. Before I get to Jaden Meidzinger, who's a great player and human being, I got to talk about the boys up front. That's where it starts, the physicality of what they do. So obviously we lost a lot of guys to Lenore with our coaching staff, but I feel really confident of the guys that we brought in. Coach Woods is a really good coach. He's going to have our offensive line, and he's taken over from a guy, Jelani Lord, that did a great job with our guys. Just the mentality and the physicality that fit our program. And it's pretty cool because Coach Lord coached Coach Woods in high school when he was a high school coach. So he knows exactly what it takes. He played the position at FAU, and he played all 5 positions there, center, left guard, right guard, and both tackles. So he knows what it takes to do what he has to do for the offensive line. So that's been good. And then that has really kind of set the tone for Jaden Meidzinger and Andrew Burnett to really do a good job of running the football and being physical. And I think it really helps us with our running game. We kind of do a little bit of everything. As you can see, we can get to the outside, run our outside zone, get these teams running. And we can get into our gap scheme runs that we can get really physical and be in our 11 or 12 personnel, run our power counter as well. So I think it fits us. And like I said, that grit, that toughness, we want the entire team to be like that. But I think in order for you to be that, you have to be able to run the ball and stop the run. And that's one thing we're not going to change. And we're going to our defense is doing a great job with us, but we got to find ways to do those things. So It's been really good. I'm really excited about the running game, and then I'm really excited of how we can get the ball in the air as well.
Coach, as a football nerd, I love watching your team. I have never coached a team like yours or the style at which you play at, but I love watching your run game. Going back a few months ago, I think Jason and I were talking, previewing the national championship. Yeah. Like you're talking about the scheme that you guys run. You guys run every run scheme, I think, imaginable, maybe other than some of the military triple option stuff. But you guys get into a lot of different things. You talk about your zone scheme and your gap scheme. I just think, and you mentioned it already, I think it's your identity, your football team. It starts there, the physicality up front, your running backs that tote the rock for you. And then on the defensive side, just the overall team speed on defense. I'm sure you've got more of that coming back this year. But have the ability, there's a group I want to talk about on defense, kind of talking, about the other side of it, is you guys are so talented on the perimeter. Your cover guys, you guys can man up and feel pretty confident about loading the box to stop the run because of the ability that you have in your cover guys. So probably more of the same, I'm assuming, without giving too many secrets away to your opponents. But I think that goes right along the lines of what you're talking about, too, in your identity of physicality. Is you can devote so many box guys to the box in the run game because you have those perimeter guys to cover.
Yes, and I think we that's part of recruiting. We tell those guys up front, hey, all the corners, and it's a certain way how we recruit, but we tell those guys, hey, you're going to be over there by yourself a lot of the times. It just is what it is. And we still want to do a couple of different things defensively, but that's who we are. That's who we are. We have to do stopping the run, and within stopping the run and getting those guys in the box, and those guys on the outside have to do a great job. And I think you can see the guys that we've had over the years that have transitioned. And, I want to talk about some of the guys that we did have that end up going to other places, Division I places that were in the back end. Winifred Lord is at FAU right now doing a great job. That's going to play. Trey Lubin, who is another corner that's at Memphis. So that's one thing. I'm not scared of saying I let it out. It is what it is. I think it's really good for those young men to get opportunities. And we show these guys, if you play and you're going to be part of this program, I want you to be able to grow. I want that for them. I think, Window it's a certain way I want them to get to that level. I think it's being able to graduate and then have that other year to, play at that next level, graduation first. And but that's one thing I'm definitely not scared to say, and I want our guys to know and understand that we want the best for them. We want the best for them. And, I know I kind of got to that point a different way, but those guys in the back end showed that what they can do, and people saw it. And they were able to get even bigger opportunities. But we're going to put you in position to make plays. That's one thing I do love about our program.
And I'm one of those guys, too, that I want to have, every great player play NAIA football for their entire career. But there is also a part of me that I love seeing great NAIA athletes perform at a high level at the NAIA, and whether it's a graduation year, they're going on as a grad transfer, or they get the opportunity to move to a Division I program. I think it speaks volumes for our level of football, how good the football is here, that those opportunities exist. The quarterback that you went up against in the national championship is transferred and playing at Division I Nebraska. You mentioned your guys, Riley Gerhardt from Valley City State, playing at the University of North Dakota, kind of local to where I am. I hate, but the part of me I hate to see it because I want those guys in the NAIA, but I love to see it because I've been saying it for 25 years. This is a great level of football, and the athletes at this level are absolutely fantastic.
Yes, and just to add on top of that, it's good that we, like, you guys are pushing and getting NAIA out. I think it's a little bit of everybody of allowing those guys to have those opportunities and getting the coverage that they need. And then especially, I think it's not a coincidence once we go to the national championship and more people are starting to learn about Keiser, those opportunities come in, and being able to be on this platform as well. It's opportunity for all of our guys. So it's definitely needed. And I don't shy away from it because I think it's really good for our young men.
Coach, I can give you a lot of credit. You have an interesting approach to things. I have not heard a coach talk about the transfer portal like you just did. It's impressive. I'm an older guy, a lot older than you, and that'd be tough for me to say. To be happy for my guys to move for my program, but you've done that, and you make a great point that you've developed great players. Your program, the Keiser program with Coach Sosha, and now you have developed these players to have opportunities at a high level, and I give you a lot of credit for that because it's not easy. I mean, that's I'm not a coach any longer. That's one of the things I look at. It's like, this is tough, man. Like, you're recruiting your own roster all the time. I mean, you guys, were at the pinnacle last year, and here you have guys. I think all 4 of your DBs were all conference. I mean, you have 2 of them now playing Division I football. So, I mean, that tells you guys are doing the right things. At the same time, it's got to be frustrating to some level. Yeah, you're happy for them, but they're your guys. You're the guy that developed relationships with them from the high school level and developing them through early part of their college career, and then they leave. So, but I really admire you for having that approach because it's. First off, it's admirable because it's a very adult approach, and you're not like, man, I wish that guy was standing here. It's honestly, it's reality, and maybe that's why I'm an old guy and I don't have the same viewpoints that you do. And it's really impressive, and I commend you.
No, and just to get on that point, it's a couple of things that come along with it. We have an opportunity to recruit better. It's our job, and those guys get opportunities, but then it's an opportunity. It's an open opportunity for one of our guys to step up or out recruit the guy that we just lost. And I think that's part of it. And one thing I tell all our coaches, a lot of guys, this part, if you want to be a part of this college game now, that's where you're going to get it. And that's part of the winning aspect. When you win, that's going to happen. And then I think the last part that come along with it, it is what it is when our coaches, are successful at our spots and we get opportunities, we're able to, take those opportunities. And it is what it is. I think, our head coach was able to get a great opportunity and he was able to go and somebody got to take his spot. So nobody's bigger than the team with the coach or the players. But guys knowing and me communicating with those guys of, with great opportunities, you got to see what best fits you. And who am I to, it can be frustrating at times, but who am I to look at it negatively if, when an older guy or another coach or myself get another opportunity and take it. It's just, that's where we're at today.
All right, Coach, we've talked a lot about, last season and some of the changes with the coaching staff and the guys leaving here. Now, let's talk about 2024. We're looking forward to this season. You start things off, North Greenville, followed by Newberry College and Fort Lauderdale. A little different than what the pre-conference games have been from the last couple years where you played a couple Division I's, Mississippi College being another one. So a little different approach, but still some pretty solid teams in North Greenville and Newberry College. What are you doing to get prepared, for that week 1 game against North Greenville?
Yeah, I think it's the same. I think they're both coming from really good deep Division II conferences, from that Mississippi College and Valdosta State conferences. So I think it's very similar. Those are really good Division II teams that we're preparing for, and it helps us get ready. We have to get ready and really see where we're at as a program and really focus in on ourselves. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited of how we come out and really show what we've been working on in terms of who we are as a program with our discipline and our physicality and how we going to take the field. So I want to get over that hump. We still haven't been able to beat a Division II team. We're out here playing them, and but we need to get over that hump. And I think I want to show our team that we can do so. And I think those two are an opportunity that we're going to take. We're going to take. I think it really can help us and our guys have a chip on their shoulder of trying to accomplish different things that we never accomplished so far here at Keiser University. So I'm very excited about it. Back-to-back weeks going up there, and I know those guys are going to be ready. They're part of the crew that has us checked off on their schedule of wanting to show guys in the country that they can beat us. So our guys are getting ready, but we've been focused on ourselves of how we can fully prepare.
Coach, talk about, obviously won the national championship last year. It is obviously a blessing, but it also can be quite a challenge in a repeat situation. Can you talk about kind of the overall approach, maybe even starting in spring following the national championship? That's a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're named the head coach. Kind of, there's some continuity of what the previous staff was, but it's still a lot of new. You had some guys leave. Talk about that. It's a challenge having that target be big. Not to have, there's a confidence, obviously, the team that's had success, those guys that are returning. At the same time, there's a fine line of that and being overconfident. You've won the national title, you've accomplished all that. How do you go about, working towards a repeat? Obviously, that's the main goal at Keiser University and your goal, obviously. What's been the message this offseason going into camp?
Just a constant reminder that this team hasn't done anything. It really has. It's a brand new team. We got a brand new coaching staff. We have a lot of guys that have left. This team has not done anything. And I don't want to shy away from the fact that they have done something before, because I kind of allude back to what got us here. But I'm not trying to take any kind of complacency that comes along with it of them winning something, because this team hasn't won anything. And we've been preaching that throughout the spring and summer. Summer was really big for us to really remind those guys, because even in the spring, I had a really good relationship with those guys that ended up leaving after. So the summer and this fall is the team. That's the team that we have coming in. So that was exciting, but just reminding them that, everybody's going to take their best shot, that we as a team hasn't done anything, as Keiser University 2024 team hasn't done anything. And I think those guys are starting to understand that. We had a ring ceremony on Friday. So that was after that ring ceremony, we had a meeting, and it was great. We had Coach Sosa came in, we got our rings. And then after that ring ceremony, I had a meeting like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and just told those guys, all right, that's it. That's it. I don't want to see no rings. I don't want to see that. That year is over. It is time for this team to try to have opportunity to win one, and focus on this team. And those guys have done a great job with it. They really have. But we don't shy away from the past of winning that ring. But I use that as a mirror of like, hey, this is what it took. You guys know what it takes, and it's going to take even more to even repeat. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the challenge, man, and having those guys have that chip on his shoulder. Because at the end of the day, it is what it is. A lot of people don't think that they can do it. A lot of people definitely don't think I can do it, and I know I understand that, and I'm so excited just to kind of show them what we're about. And it's not about always just showing the naysayers, but really focus on ourselves and being able to win something together. Again, it's nothing like it.
All right, Coach, I'm going to give you the best opportunity, or see how good you are at either avoiding a question or answering it directly, and I'll judge here afterwards. So obviously Bryce Veasley was your starter in the most of the season last year. He gets injured. Justin Wake starts the national championship game. Both those guys are gone, so that leaves a very open battle at the quarterback position. And while a lot of your offenses obviously ran through your running backs and Meisinger and Burnett and your offensive line, the signal caller obviously is going to be a major part of your offense. Can you give us any glimpse of what that looks like, or is it in a battle, or what does that quarterback position look like for you?
It's a battle. It's a battle. I'm very upfront, with what's going on with our team. It's a battle right now. I'm not scared to say it with the two guys that we have. We have Shea Spencer that's coming back. That was a guy that brought us to our first national championship, ended up getting hurt, and then was able to play this past year. So he's back. So I'm very excited about him. And then we have a redshirt freshman that was doing a great job and torching our number one defense last year into DJ Charlton, that's from down here. So those guys have been battling it out. They both do different things that we love about them. But at the end of the day, you have to run the offense. We don't want a manager. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people think, that that fits who we are. I want a guy that runs the offense, and can be. We have a good running game, but at the end of the day, we're going to have to make teams pay if they want to stack the box and be able to showcase some of the guys on the outside. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited for those two guys. It's a true battle between them, and they know so. And let the best man win it. But I'm excited to see who comes out of this thing. But they both do great things that I'm very excited about.
Coach, I want to thank you so much for your time. I tell you, this is how many days in the camp now are you guys? Are you going in the heat of the day? What are you guys doing to temper the temperature?
Man. It gets a lot hotter down here. But we love it. I like when the heat is turned up a little bit, because that's when you truly know what you have. That's when you truly know the discipline that you have, the standard that we set forth for these guys, who's going to be gritty and get through it. So I'm loving it. I'm loving it. This heat that we have, and then it pays off. I tell you what, it pays off later on in the road when we can get some of those guys from up north to come down here and play, even if it's in November. It's still a little different. So it's been great, but I'm ready to go. I'm really excited. I kind of want this training camp as part of it, but I'm excited for this season to go and really show everybody what we've been working on.
Coach Russ, my thanks to you as well for joining us on the program. It was great to have this opportunity to get to talk to you for the first time in person, and we're looking forward to doing it many times here down the road.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, guys.
All right, that was our interview with Coach Myles Russ of Keiser University. Great talk with him. Sorry about some of the technical issues that we had within that interview, but look forward to talking to Coach Russ down the road, everything that they've got going on with their program as he starts his first year as head coach of the defending national champion Keiser Seahawks. Again, my thanks to my co-host Pat Donley for being on the program tonight and all the research that he did in getting prepared for our long talk about the world of NAIA football. This is definitely the longest show that we've ever done. It will probably be the longest show that we ever do until next year when we do the preseason show. But this kind of gets to live out there on the internet now for the next 2 weeks as we get set for the official start of NAIA football coming up at the end of this month, and a couple games that we got firing off here this next weekend. So thank you, everybody, for checking out Victory Sports Network Live's NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley. For Pat Donley, I'm Jason Dannelly. Let's have a great NAIA football season, and we look to getting you back here on the program again in 1 week. We'll see you then. Thanks, everybody.